Kryptonians can move faster than light, tank a nuclear bomb, and bench press a planet, and Viltrumites would still beat them in a war. Here's why. What's good, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss a video. Today, we are settling one of the biggest debates in all of comics: Viltrumites versus Kryptonians. Who is actually the stronger race? Not just Superman versus Omni-Man, but the species as a whole. We are going deep on powers, weaknesses, history, biology, military strength, and peak individuals. By the end of this video, you are going to have a definitive answer. Let's get into it. Alright, so let's start with Kryptonians because most people already know them. Krypton was an advanced alien civilization, highly intelligent, technologically superior, deeply scientific. These were not warriors, these were thinkers, philosophers, engineers. Their society was built around knowledge and order, not combat. For most of their existence on Krypton, they had no powers at all. Their home planet had a red sun, and under a red sun, Kryptonians are completely baseline, just regular humanoid aliens with no abilities whatsoever. The powers only activate under a yellow sun, like Earth's. So everything we associate with Superman, the strength, the speed, the invulnerability, the heat vision, the freeze breath, the flight, none of that exists naturally. It is entirely dependent on the right solar radiation hitting their cells and charging them up like a battery. That is an incredibly important detail that a lot of people gloss over when they talk about how powerful Kryptonians are. Now, when they are powered up under a yellow sun, they are genuinely on another level. Superman at full power is one of the strongest characters in all of fiction. He has canon feats of moving faster than light, pulling the Earth, tanking blasts that would destroy solar systems in certain storylines, and surviving in the vacuum of space indefinitely. His heat vision is precise enough to perform surgery or powerful enough to level a city block. His freeze breath can drop the temperature of an entire environment instantly. His super hearing and X-ray vision make him nearly impossible to ambush, and his healing factor under a yellow sun is strong. Not instant like some characters, but given enough solar exposure, he can recover from almost anything short of kryptonite exposure or decapitation. Peak Superman in the right storyline is genuinely planetary to universal level depending on which version you're reading. But here is the problem. All of that goes away the second you remove the yellow sun. Red sun radiation doesn't just weaken Superman, it completely powers him down over time. And green kryptonite, which is literally just radioactive chunks of his dead home planet, causes him immediate and severe physical pain, drains his powers almost instantly, and with prolonged exposure, it kills him. That is not a minor weakness, that is a catastrophic design flaw for a supposedly invincible being. On top of that, magic affects Kryptonians normally. Characters with magical abilities can hurt Superman just as easily as they would hurt a regular person, and certain mental attacks and psychic abilities can also bypass his physical invulnerability entirely. So yes, Superman and Kryptonians are terrifying under optimal conditions, but optimal conditions are not guaranteed in a war. Now let's talk about Viltrumites, and this is where things get really interesting. Viltrumites come from the planet Viltrum, and unlike Kryptonians, their power is not environmental, it is not solar, it is not conditional on anything external, it is pure biology. Viltrumites evolved, or more accurately, engineered themselves through brutal selective survival into the most physically dominant humanoid species in their universe. Thousands of years ago, the Viltrumite civilization made a decision. They would eliminate every member of their species who was not strong enough, fast enough, or durable enough to meet a certain threshold. They culled their own population down to basically nothing and then rebuilt from only the strongest survivors. Generation after generation of this process produced a species where every single living member is an apex physical specimen by default. There is no weak Viltrumite. The concept doesn't exist anymore. They bred weakness out of themselves entirely. What does that mean in practice? It means a Viltrumite doesn't need a star, doesn't need a planet, doesn't need any external power source at all. They are just that strong all the time, everywhere, in any environment. Omni-Man flies through space without a suit. He survives in the vacuum with no problem. He crashes into planets at full speed and gets up. He takes hits from beings who can shatter moons and keeps fighting. His healing factor is extraordinary. Viltrumites can regenerate from wounds that would permanently cripple or kill nearly any other species, and they do it relatively quickly. Their bone density is said to be astronomically higher than a human's. Their muscle tissue is so dense that conventional weapons don't even register, and their lifespan is essentially indefinite. Viltrumites age so slowly that a 1,000-year-old Viltrumite is still in their physical prime. That means every Viltrumite warrior has potentially centuries of actual combat experience built up inside them. That is not something you can replicate with raw power alone. And their weakness? The Scourge virus. That is basically it, a biological weapon specifically engineered to target Viltrumite physiology. It is incredibly difficult to produce, hard to deploy in a real combat scenario, and was essentially a one-time weapon used under very specific circumstances in the comics. Outside of that, there is no kryptonite equivalent for Viltrumites. No magic weakness, no solar dependency, no psychic vulnerability. You just have to be strong enough to physically beat them, and almost nothing in their universe is. Now, let's compare them directly. Physically, at peak power, a fully solar-charged Kryptonian and a Viltrumite are in the same conversation. This is not a stomp either way. Superman versus Omni-Man is genuinely competitive, and that debate exists for a reason. Superman likely has a slight edge in raw power output at absolute peak. Some of his canon feats are just on a different scale. But Omni-Man has the durability advantage and the combat experience advantage. Omni-Man has been fighting for thousands of years. Superman, depending on continuity, has maybe been active for a decade or two. That gap in actual fighting experience matters enormously in a real fight. Omni-Man doesn't just hit hard, he fights smart, dirty, and without hesitation. Superman's compassion has gotten him in trouble more than once. Omni-Man simply does not have that problem. But forget the individual matchup for a second, because the real question is about the races, and this is where Viltrumites win decisively. Think about what a Kryptonian army actually looks like. You take 1,000 Kryptonians, ship them to a planet with a yellow sun, and yes, they are unstoppable. But take that same army and fight them somewhere without a yellow sun, and you have 1,000 regular people standing on a battlefield. That is an insane liability for a conquering civilization. The Viltrumite Empire conquered thousands of worlds across their universe. They did it with a tiny population, maybe a few thousand warriors, and later down to less than 50 purebloods. They were able to do that because every single one of those warriors was fully operational in any environment, on any planet, under any star. They showed up ready every single time. You cannot say that about Kryptonians. And then there's the cultural and psychological element. Kryptonians are not conquerors. They are not built mentally or culturally for sustained warfare. The ones we know, Superman, Supergirl, even Zod to an extent, are exceptions. Zod is literally considered a radical and a war criminal in Kryptonian culture because he wanted to militarize the species. That tells you everything. A civilization that views its own military general as a monster is not a civilization built for war. Viltrumites, on the other hand, have no such conflict. War is not something they do reluctantly. It is their entire reason for existing. Every aspect of their society, their history, their biology is pointed in one direction: domination. They do not hesitate. They do not show mercy. They do not negotiate unless it benefits them strategically. They are the most ruthless conquering force in their universe, and they have the track record to prove it. So let's bring it all together. At the individual level, peak versus peak, it's close. Superman edges Omni-Man in raw power. Omni-Man edges Superman in combat experience and durability. Call it roughly even, with slight advantages on both sides, depending on conditions. But at the racial level, it is not close. Viltrumites win. Their power is unconditional. Their weaknesses are minimal and difficult to exploit. Their entire species is a weapon. Their culture is built for war in a way Kryptonian culture simply isn't. And their warriors carry centuries of actual combat experience that no young Kryptonian, no matter how powerful, can match out of the gate. Kryptonians are gods who were handed their power by a yellow star and never had to earn it. Viltrumites carved their power out of their own species over thousands of years of blood and survival. And in a real war, that difference is everything. That's going to do it for today's video. If you enjoyed, drop a like. It helps the channel more than you know. Let me know in the comments who you think wins. I want to see the debate down there. Subscribe if you're new, and I'll catch you in the next one.